let's go ahead and see if we can get you guys going on the selection tool. Now, Brother Libert covers a ton of great selection tools. All of it is super helpful, useful for many different reasons. But he doesn't cover one of my favorite tools, and I actually think it's probably one of the easier ones to use some of the time. So I'm going to see if I can help make things a little bit easier just by giving you one additional tool, but then I'll walk you through using the quick selection tool as well and using the inverse select portion of it so that we can extract the parts that we want to extract. What you want to think about doing is this is just basically erasing the parts that we don't want. Okay, that's one of the reasons why we tell you search for your items on a white background or a solid color background. And the reason for that is because with the selection tool, it's using the color of the pixels to select it. So if everything is all green, that's going to be a lot easier to extract this ice cream cone from it than if, let's say, there was a white background because the ice cream's white. Okay, so look for images that provide a lot of contrast and then the backgrounds are solid colors, and then the extraction process or the masking out what you don't want becomes a lot easier. Let's go ahead and talk my favorite tool. I use it almost as much as the quick selection tool, and I guess you could say it's a little bit of a cheat, but honestly, we want the program to do as much of the work as possible. And so if this makes it a little bit easier, then by all means use this option. So he talked about the polygon lasso tool and the lasso tool, and it's over on the left-hand side of the toolbar. But the one tool that he didn't talk about is the magnetic lasso. And the magnetic lasso looks exactly like the lasso tool. It has the lasso there, but then it also has the little horseshoe magnet above it. And the way the magnetic lasso tool works is very much like the lasso tool, only you remember in Illustrator he talked about things snapping to a grid, or InDesign, I can't remember which program he talked about, but the idea of things would kind of snap to a grid. The magnetic lasso tool just adds in a little additional feature, and what it does is it starts to realize what we are selecting, then it starts looking for pixels similar to that, and it kind of starts auto-filling for us. Now sometimes it makes a mistake, and anytime that it starts to make a mistake, the way to solve it is to go ahead and click where you do want it to pick. And so I'll show you as we do that. What I'm going to do, remember in Brother Libert's video, he wants us to just get the white part of the ice cream and this churro, okay? We're going to actually take out the yellow cone part, okay? Because we don't need that for the exercise. So I have my magnetic lasso tool selected, and right now I'm on the mountains layer over on the right hand side. We want to make sure that we're on the ice cream layer before we start doing any work, or else it won't work for us, okay? Always double check your layers before you start working. So I've got the right tool, I've got the right layer. I'm going to go ahead and start right here, kind of down towards the left hand side. And to drop the point, you just click where you want that first point to start. And you can see I'm not clicking, I'm just moving my mouse, and it's kind of automatically adjusting, okay, to the white portion, because it's like, I think she wants white. So anytime that we get a little curve and we start changing directions, see how I picked up a little green there? What we basically want to do is anytime we start seeing those little curves, we're going to drop points there so we get a cleaner selection. I actually just kind of move it along and select, but it helps do curves. So remember, he shows you the polygon lasso tool, and it gives you all these hard angles. Oftentimes when you're selecting, it's curved angles that you're working with, and that's a lot harder. But you can see right here, now we're moving to the churro, that brown actually has a lot of yellow and green and different colors that come into green there. So we're going to just really make clicks on the churro so that we get really everything that we want and get about as clean of an edge as we can. Okay, so I drop more points when I think that it might be a little hairy as to what color I'm actually selecting, and less points when I realize that the auto feature is kind of doing a good job selecting. Anytime we hit a little curve, I go ahead and just drop a point around curves. I drop more points around these curves because then I get a cleaner selection in the end, and it really doesn't take too long. And you don't have to be perfect, okay? We can clean up the edges if we really want to. For your creative edge, you'll want to. I really am not going to be overly harsh on grading this because I know there's lots of people that might be having an issue with these tools. So you're just going to try and stick to it as much as possible. Down here, I'm actually going to cut off a little bit of that orangey colored ice cream because it kind of does match the cone more than the ice cream, and it won't give me quite the look that I want. So you can see, you can start extracting. And remember, to be able to get the marching ants, you've got to go back and close up your shape. So right now we actually have all of the ice cream selected and the churro. Double check everything. We've actually excluded the ice cream cone because we don't want that for our exercise. And then we have the portion that we want to keep already selected. We don't have to inverse it at all using the magnetic lasso because we're actually lassoing in what we do want, right? So with that, then I'm just going to go over to the right-hand side at the bottom of the layers panel, and I'm going to the little rectangle that has the circle in the middle is the add layer mask. I'm going to go ahead and click that add layer mask, and you can see we've gotten rid of all of the green and the cone. We're exactly where we want to be with Brother Libert on the ice cream cone. So I'm going to go back over to the layers panel, and I'm going to click the eyeball to get rid of it. Now I want to show you how to use the quick selection tool that Brother Libert uses and create the inverse. This process is a little funny. It gets more difficult, and for a long time, I had to really think this through in my head or else I'd get messed up. So I'll try to walk you through it in the most simple way possible. We want to make sure I'm still in the right-hand side of the panel. On the layers panel, I have ice cream selected. Let's go ahead and click on mountains so that we know we're working in the right layer. Then we want to go back to our left-hand toolbar. We're not going to use the magnetic lasso for this one, although you could, okay? But I want to show you the content selection. Or the quick selection. Sorry, I keep saying content selection because there's a tool that's named that, but we don't want that right now. The quick selection tool is the little paintbrush with the little circle dot that is kind of drawing out. So we're going to click on that one, and this one is where we're going to use the option key if you have a Mac. But because I know that you guys are working mostly on PCs, anytime I say option, I want you to hold down the Alt key. Okay, I'll do my best to make that distinction. Okay. So Alt is what you want to hold down. Right now you can see we're adding to our selection. So we really want the mountains, but the easiest way to get the mountains is to actually pick the sky. And the reason for that is because the mountains have a lot of different shades of gray, lighter gray, almost the same color as the sky in some of these portions, right? And then some darker grays. That's going to be harder for our selection tool to pick up because remember, it likes similar colored pixels. The sky, there's so much of it that's so similar that it's almost easier to select the sky and then use an inverse tool. So what that means is we just we pick the selection of the stuff we want to erase. Then we go up and we say we want to inverse it. And then what it does is the program does the work for us and it says, well, we selected the sky. The user's saying we want to inverse it. So then let's choose the mountains. Okay. You could use the magnetic lasso tool, but let's show you this option. So we have our quick selection tool selected, and I have a fairly big brush at the current moment. It has a plus sign right in the center. You should be able to see that. And I'm just going to click once, and you can see that it pretty closely, these dancing ants along the mountains, they've done a pretty good job. So I like this tool. It's working really well. So at this point, let's say that I wanted to subtract what I'd already used. I would hold down Option on my Mac or Alt on your PC. You will click it and hold, okay? And on your brush in the center of the circle over here, you should see a minus sign now. If I click that, it's going to take a portion away, okay? So instead, I'm just going to hit Command Z. It would be Control Z for you. Now that I've got the plus, I don't have to hold down any key. I can just keep clicking. So I'm going to keep clicking sky. And I'm going to keep checking my dancing ants. Yep, it's taking in all the sky, so everything's covered here. Let's go ahead and click here. It's doing really well, wrapping around that mountain. Yep, then I just say, whoa, it chose everything. It's done a pretty good job coming down right here where this lighter gray is. You can see the dancing ants exclude that part. We actually want to include it, okay? So I'm going to take my brush size down a little bit. That's with your bracket keys, okay? And then I want to include this little part in the selection. So I'm just going to hold down Alt, Option for a Mac user, okay? But Alt for a PC user. And we want to take away this mountain portion from what we've selected, the sky. Now you can see I took a little bit too much away. So now I have some sky that's not included with the sky selection. So I'm going to let go of my Alt key. And then I'm just going to click right there to kind of get it to come back and snap up against the mountains. Now remember, right now we have all of the sky selected, but that's the part we want to erase. We could take the eraser tool and erase it, but that's going to be really destructive. We aren't going to be able to put that back in case we want to change how things are later. So the right way to do it at this point, we want to add a mask. But the problem is, if we add a mask to our sky selection, it's going to leave the sky and take out the mountains. But it's the mountains that we want. So this is where we use the inverse feature, okay? We have a sky selected, and we actually want to get rid of it, but we don't want to destroy the image. So with the sky selected, we go up to select, up at the top navigation, and we hit inverse. Now nothing is going to appear to change, okay, on your actual file, what's selected. You still see all the dancing ants in all the right places, right? So now we just have to trust for a second to make sure we've got it all correct. What we want to have stay is the mountains. What we want to get rid of is the sky. So we're going to go over to the right-hand side, and we're going to go back down to that layer mask, and we're going to apply the layer mask. And yep, we've got our mountains. Now, you can see, Brother Libert talked about this, about the little halo that comes along the edge. And you'll hear me talk about this in the creative ad. A lot of you will mask things out, and then you'll just leave the halos. And that really brings the viewer's eye, and it says, hey, this is photoshopped, and it was done really quickly. We want to spend enough time to clean that up. So let me show you how to take care of that, okay? You can essentially go up to select and hit reselect, and it should give you dancing ants all the way around the outside, because remember what we actually selected was all the sky, and then it will dance all along the mountains, okay? We want to clean up this halo, right? So we want to hit inverse, and then actually let's not clean up the halo right now. Let's just work on getting the whole assignment fixed, and then I'll show you the cleaning up, because that probably is going to be less confusing. I'm sorry, this has been a long video. I just checked the time. I want to make sure I don't waste your time. So we've got the clouds showing up in the background. We've got the mountain clipped out pretty well. Now it's time to go back and turn on our ice cream cone. So we're just going to go back over to the ice cream panel. We're going to highlight it. We're going to click the eyeball back on, and there's our ice cream. At this point, we want to go ahead and take our move tool. Actually, let's just go the free transform. So that is going to be Shift T, I believe. Actually, no, the move tool. Let's go right here. And we're going to do the free transform. So it's Command T for me on a Mac. So it's going to be Control T for you on a PC. And you can see we've got the whole image selected, but the ice cream is the only thing that's showing up. And you've got the bounding box. So we're just going to size it down. Brother Libert sizes it down quite a bit. And I believe that he kind of just adjusts it here on the top of the mountain. And so once we're set with everything, we'll go up to the top and hit this green check mark, or the check mark up here, or we can just double click the image. Whoops. And it should be good to go. Now, you can see that we're pretty good on how everything is. Brother Libert does talk you through on some of the cleanup. You can go ahead and follow what he does for the cleanup. I think he does a really good job, and I really, that's how I would do it as well. So watch that portion of the cleanup. If you have more questions on that, though, don't worry about it so much for this worksheet. Just go ahead and get through the rest of the worksheet, turn it in, and then send me a note, and we'll work through some cleanup processes so that you've got the right skills for moving into your creative ad. Hopefully that helps. If not, let me know. We'll figure out a time to meet, okay?